Hey Flosstube, this is Brian. Welcome back. This is my 29th Flosstube video, and it will be an update of my stitching for the month of March 2017. But first of all, I want to welcome everybody. If you are new, welcome. I hope that you enjoy seeing the things that I have to share with you. If you are returning, thank you so much for coming back. Thank you everybody for all of your likes, for commenting and subscribing to my channel. I really enjoy hearing from you and enjoy hearing the comments that you have and getting to know you a little bit better. So let's get started. First of all, I've received a couple of questions since my last video, and I thought I would talk about them. First of all, Donna Neal asked me about one of the charts that she's working on. She is working on one of the seasonal samplers by Sandy Orton. I just recently finished the winter sampler. I don't exactly remember which one she's working on, but she asked me how I handled the case where there is a back stitch running through the middle of a full stitch. And I do a couple of things. It kind of depends on the effect that I want to have. One of the things that I do is I either just do the full cross stitch, and then when I back stitch over the top of that. Sometimes if I'm really thinking, and if I think it will look better, I will do 2 quarter stitches and let the back stitch be I guess the second leg in that square. It just kind of depends on what I want to do. More often than not, I will do a full cross with the back stitch running through it. Millie Alayon and Susan Soloway. So in my Stitch With Me video that I did at the beginning of the month, I talked about how I've kind of started knitting again, and I'm working on an Afghan from a book called The Learn to Knit Afghan by Barbara Walker, and they both wanted to see the squares that I've done so far. So I guess we can do that right now. So this is an Afghan that is designed by a lady named Barbara Walker, and she wrote a book, and the whole point of the book was by the time you knit all the squares in the Afghan, then you would have learned a whole bunch of techniques, different ways to knit different ways to increase and decrease stitches, different ways to do lace, cables, all sorts of different techniques. By the time you finish this Afghan, you've learned all of these different techniques. And it's a really good book if you want to improve your knitting skills or learn new skills. I would highly recommend that book. I believe it's still available too. I don't think it was reprinted by Schoolhouse Press, which is a company that is run by Meg Swanson, who was Elizabeth Zimmerman's daughter. Those are all, if you're in the knitting world, you've heard those names before. They're pretty prominent. Anyway, so Caroline and Gerald, Caroline teaching Gerald how to knit has kind of given me the knitting bug again. Not too much. I'm basically taking a square to work and knitting on my lunch break when I get the opportunity, which isn't every day. So I'm kind of slowly working on this. This Afghan has kind of been in progress for a couple of years, maybe longer. It's probably been 4 or 5 years since I started this. And I have just a handful of squares left to knit. There's 49 in total, and I think I've got 15 left to do. So first of all, I'll show you the squares that I've recently completed. The first one is the one that I showed on my Stitch With Me video. I finished it and it's here. So this is called twisted panels, and it's basically twist stitches to make a design. And twisted stitches, basically, it's kind of like cabling 2 stitches instead of a real cable is usually cabled with 6 or 4 stitches. So there's that. I finished this square, and then the last square that and then the other square that I've knit since then, this is called stepped fret. And this technique is called mosaic knitting. And I don't know, somebody might correct me, but I kind of think Barbara Walker invented this technique. It's a way to do 2-color knitting, kind of Faroe Isle effects, without having to change the color that you're knitting. So you knit alternate rows of 2 colors, and you slip some of the colors on the right side. And what that does is that creates this design. So like every time you see this vertical white thing, that means that the white has been slipped, and that pulls the color up into the next row. So, and she does several of these. There's several squares like this in here, and I'm not going to show you all of these squares because, I mean, here they are. There's a whole lot, but I thought I'd share with you some of my favorites. This is called parquet squares, and it's meant to teach you, you can see I haven't woven in my ends, it's meant to teach you how to pick up stitches. Let me see here. This is another twisted stitch. This is kind of like mock cables. So you can see the stitches cable around themselves and then they switch. That's pretty cool. That's twisted stitches like the other one. I need to find you one of my cables. This one's kind of cool. This is called woven tweed. And that's kind of done, I think this is another slip stitch type of pattern where you're slipping stitch in stitches, but it's not like mosaic knitting. Let's see here. This is kind of an interesting pattern. It has twisted rib and garter stitch, and that just kind of shows you how ribbing pulls in and is narrower than garter stitch. I don't remember exactly, but I think there's the same number of stitches across in the garter stitch as there is in the, there has to be, in the ribbing. And the ribbing pulls in and makes room for the garter stitch. Oh yeah, I like this I like this square. This is called bobble and leaf, so it teaches you how to make leaves. That's with using increases and decreases, and then these bobbles too. Yeah, I wanted to show you a couple of cables. These are a couple of cables. This is a plate in the middle, and then I don't remember what these are called, what she called these on the ends, but that's pretty cool. There's one, yeah, this is a cool effect too. I really like this. This is called, she calls this a lacing cable. So it looks like you've got laces that are pulling the panels together. I like cables. This is more traditional cables with moss stitch. Let's see, some other things that are kind of cool. This is called star stitch, and you make stars by, I think you slip a stitch, knit a couple of stitches, and then pass the slip stitch over the top of the stitches that you've knitted, and that makes that kind of star effect. This one is kind of like the washcloths that everybody's been knitting, so it's increasing on knitting on the bias basically to give you a diagonal pattern. Oh yeah, I ought to show you some lace. Lace diamonds. This is called Bumblebee. Yeah, this square, this is called Trinity Stitch, and that is this is a real pain to knit for me because you have to like purl 3 stitches together and back. It's just ugh. But anyway, yeah, I said I wasn't going to show you everything, but let me see here. Yeah, this one's kind of cool. This is called Florentine Frieze. That kind of looks like that would make a good sweater, I think. So that's kind of cool looking. And then there's strange things like this. Well, I guess this one is really curly. This is lattice, I think. So you slip stitches. These are slip stitches that are slipped over 4 rows. So I think you yarn over to give you more yarn so that you can slip it that far. Yeah. Yeah. That's probably enough. But yeah, there's also, oh yeah, here's another cable. So they're kind of fun to knit. There's a lot of variety there. My biggest challenge, and I said this in my video, my biggest challenge that I'm facing is how I'm going to sew all these squares together. And it's going to eventually be an Afghan for my youngest daughter that she feels left out because I've made Afghans for everybody but her, and she wants one. So I really ought to get going and finish that. So, oh, and then this is the one I'm working on right now. I'll show you this. This is called Rose Fabric. And the thing that you do in this one that's kind of cool is every other stitch you're knitting into the row below, and that's what causes the colors to drop down into the row below. So that's what I'm working on right now. This is an easy pattern, easy to memorize. It's only four rows long, and it's basically the same pattern twice, just offset a little bit. So there's my Afghan squares. Who knows, maybe someday I'll have an actual Afghan to show off. Okay, so there's all my questions. I also wanted to shout out a couple of people. First of all, I want to shout out Basic Stitches. I've been watching them for a long time. It's Jordan and Jamie. They live in northern Utah, which is one of my favorite places on earth. I would love to live where they live. It's a very beautiful place. And I actually did. That's where I went to school. I went to school at Utah State, and they live in the same general area. So it's been fun watching them. It's fun watching them because they have 3 generations of cross-stitchers. And it's like a whole family group that cross-stitch together, and it's fun to watch them share the things that they're doing. Also, there's a new Flosstuber, and I've been following her on Instagram for quite some time, and I was really excited to see that she'd made a video. Her name is Angie, and on Instagram she goes by Bubmie. That's B-U-B-M-I-E. You should really check her out. Her first video is really good, and she shows some interesting projects. So go show her a little bit of love. Okay, so I guess that's a good start. Now let's get into a little bit of talking about what I've done as far as cross-stitching goes this month. So March has been a good month for me, and I have been able to do quite a bit more. I've worked on a lot of things, and I have a lot to show you. I've kind of started up my rotation again, although it's not quite as formal as it used to be. I'm working on a piece for about a week, and then at the end of the week I'm deciding what to do next. So I'm not regimenting what I'm doing. And I think that I'm going to have 1 or 2 pieces that I'm going to focus on doing, and the rest of the month I am planning on kind of just doing what I want to do. And I think that'll help me a little bit. So let's talk about what I've done. Well, first of all, I'm going to show you my graphs. This first graph is my stitches trend that I always do, and you'll see that March looks a little bit more normal than February did. Part of the reason for that is it's still lower than what I did in the past, and the reason for that is I'm mostly working on pieces that are full coverage or almost full coverage. I don't have a piece right now that's motifs like my Antiphorus Grew or my alphabet sampler. With those pieces, I can cover a lot of ground in the chart really fast, and that's why I used to have a lot more stitch count than I do right now. So, but it looks good. Also, okay, I have to confess something. I have a new start, and we'll talk about it a little bit later. Although I kind of am not, I don't really, it's hard to count it as a new start because it is part of a series that I've been working on, and I feel like it's kind of a continuation of that. So it's, I guess we'll call it a half start. But here's my graph, my whip trend, showing you, yes, that my whips have gone back up to 8. So anyway, I don't know. I just had to start something, and the piece that I started is small, and it won't take me long to finish. So that's how I justified it, I guess. So this next graph is the Pareto that shows the number of days that I've worked on each piece. You'll see that I've worked on 4 pieces, and the number of days that I've worked on them is split pretty evenly, so that looks pretty good. Okay, here's the stitch Pareto showing the number of stitches that I put in each piece, and you'll see Let Freedom Ring is the winner here, probably because there's more space in that piece than there are in the others. And I also, there's not an even number of days. I mean, I worked on each one differently, a different number of days. So I've come up with a new chart. This is my average stitch Pareto, and it's the average basically the number of stitches per day that I put in on each project. And that kind of gives you a feel for what charts are more complicated for others, because since they're more complicated, I can't do quite as much as quickly. And so it makes sense here. The English Garden Sampler is the chart that I'm working on the most, that has the most complication, and I can't do as much of that in one night as I can on my other charts. So there are my graphs, and now let's get to showing you the actual pieces that I worked on. The first piece that I worked on is Let Freedom Ring by Lila's Studio. Of course, there are a lot of people doing this. This is Independence Hall. We have a Facebook group. I will post a link to it down below if you are working on this and want to join us, or if you want to join and just watch everybody stitch on this, feel free to join us. We would love to have you. I'll insert a picture of what it looked like the last time that you saw it. I'll insert that here. And The theme of this month is, it has been a long time. It has been a long time since I worked on these pieces. So it's been kind of, well, good and bad, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But, so that's what it looked like the last time you saw it, and the last time you saw it was, I'll put a comment telling you when the last time it was that you saw it, but I think it was July. So it has been a long time since I've worked on this, and I felt kind of guilty about it, so it felt good to work on this. Anyway, this is what it looks like now. So yeah, so basically what I've done is I've done these trees, I've done the breezeway, and then all of this building. So it is actually gone pretty quickly, and I think I'm about halfway through the main building. And I'm really enjoying how this is looking so far. I had somebody ask for a close-up of the trees because they said that they were really intricate, and really that's just 2 different colors of floss. They're both overdyes, they're both classic colorworks. Endive and Forest Glen, I think. So that's kind of, I think they look more complicated than they really are because of that. So yeah, I am planning on, well, I'm not going to do the steeple because I would have to scroll up to be able to do that. So I'm going to come across here and come back and do the steeple later. But yeah, oh, this looks so good. I haven't looked at this for, oh, it's been close to a month now, and just looking at it makes me want to work on it again. So that's Let Freedom Ring. That's kind of exciting. And this is going really fast right now. So I think that I will be able to, it may be the next piece that I finish. I don't know. That is the piece that I am concentrating on most, because it's the next piece that I do want to finish. I want to get it finished. The next piece that I worked on is Midsummer Roses. This is an old chart by Paula Vaughan. And I was enabled to stitch this by I Heart Cross Stitch by Andrea. When I saw hers, I wanted to do it. So yeah, so this is what it will look like. And once again, I'll insert a picture of what it looked like the last time you saw it. And it has been a long time. I think this was July since I worked on this. So once again, it felt good to do this. So, so this is what it looks like now. So you see I've got more of the lattice here, and this is the bucket that the roses sit in. This is the beginning of the bouquet of roses. So, and then this is going to be a straw hat with a bow on it. And I don't know, Paula Vaughan, she always seems to have a straw hat with a ribbon on it. So that's like her signature thing, I think. But yeah, this is turning out really good. I got here and got towards the end of the week. This is going to get really complicated in here. All these roses in here, I'm gonna be slowing down because working through those roses is going to take some time. So that's kind of why I decided to move on, is I wasn't emotionally prepared to start stitching roses. But yeah, oh, I really like how this is turning out. I like seeing it, and I think that it's gonna really look great when it's done. And it's actually smaller than I expected it to be. So this is actually, won't take me as long as some of my other pieces, I don't think. The next piece that I worked on is English Garden Sampler. This is a design by Teresa Wentzler. And it's, of course, it's a sampler with an English garden scene. I just realized that I am not telling you what I'm stitching these on. When I forget that, look in the notes below if you're interested, because I'll put it down there as well. So it will always be in the notes below. So I'll insert a picture of what this looked like the last time you saw it. And once again, it's been a long time since I've worked on this. In fact, I think it's been longer than the other two. I'm stitching this using Sullivan's floss instead of DMC. It was kind of an experiment to see what I thought about Sullivan's. And I'll say I like it. Well, it's okay. I don't know if I will use Sullivan's again. The colors are a little bit off from DMC, and that kind of bugs me a little bit. And it doesn't seem to be as smooth. It doesn't seem to be as smooth as DMC either. So, but you may have different experience with Sullivan's. So anyway, here is what it looks like now. This is on 25 count Lugana antique white, I believe. So of course the border is what I had done, and I'm working through this and this scene right here, and this scene, sometimes it's a real slog because, I mean, this is more, Teresa Wentzler I think is more confetti heavy than Hayes, or at least it's comparable to Hayes. All of these greens through here, it's just like a couple of stitches of each color, and there's just tons of colors in here. And there's blends too, so yeah, so this has been, it takes me a while to work through this, but I'm really happy with the way that this is coming. So you can see this second pillar is almost finished. I am almost to the base of the pillar. It'll look kind of like this. And this right here, this is water spout from, there's a fountain that's right here. And this is the water from the fountain that's coming up. Oh yeah, and I've started to reach the, you see how there's trees over here? Here's the first of the trees that are over on this side. So I am making good progress. Look, I am that far away from hitting this corner. And when I hit that corner, then my diagonals will start to shrink, which will be a real milestone. Now, I think that when I finish this, the rest of the piece is going to be pretty easy. There's another band of pretty thick cross stitch that runs through here, but it's not as tall as this panel is. So I think things will go a lot faster when I finish this. It's just going to take me a while to work through this. Oh yeah, down here there's a peacock right here, and I've hit the peacock's tail feathers, and that's kind of why I stopped here, because there's blending filament in the peacock, and I haven't really done stitches with blending filament since I started stitching this way, since I started parking. And I needed to think about how I was going to work through that. And part of the reason why I need to is because with blending filament, I tie the blending filament to my needle so that it doesn't slip. I just use a lark's head knot and tie it to my needle. And that makes it so that the blending filament doesn't slip and give me problems. And I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch the tail and then come back in with the stitches that need blending filament. So you'll probably see, the next time you see this, you'll probably see holes where stitches with blending filament are going to show up. So, but I had to stop and think through that. I wasn't prepared to decide how I was going to do that yet. Okay, the fourth piece that I've worked on, and this is the piece that is my new start. So, you know, I've stitched these two ducks. This is mallard and pintail. I've stitched both of those. I finished pintail last fall, I think. So now there are two more ducks to stitch. And right now I decided to start this one. This is the wood duck. I'll give you a little bit of a closer look. So I've started wood duck, and I've had requests from a couple of people to show how I start pieces. And so I used this start to document how I start pieces. So if you haven't seen that video yet, go ahead and check it out. It's Flosstube number 28. It's my Start With Me video. So you can check that out and see how I started this piece. And it shows kind of the process that I go through to start a piece. Since then, I've been working on this for just under a week. This is how much I have been able to do. So I have been able to do, I'm about, probably about 40% through the design. And this is the shelf. This is the anchor that is used to hold the decoy in place. This cloth, there's the cloth that the duck is sitting on. And this right here is the duck. Oh, and here's the duck's bill. So I am getting close to where this will start to make even more sense. And this has been a good, fun, easy piece to work on. It's been easier and faster than the other two ducks, mainly because this cloth right here, it's not as complicated to stitch. It's more blocky colors, and so it's been going really quite quickly. And if I wanted to, I think I could finish this in another week and a half. I don't know if I'm going to do that, but yeah, so there's wood duck. This is 28 count light mocha Cashel linen. That's the linen that it is called for in the design. It is so these designs are in the November 1994 and January 1995 issues of For the Love of Cross Stitch. They are based on a series of 4 paintings by Judy Gibson. And the adaptation was done by Donna Vermillion Giampa. So if you want to find those, that's where you would be able to find them. So that's what I've worked on this month. And I'm really quite happy with my progress. And I'm looking forward to doing more. So my plans for April, like I say, I'm going to concentrate, Let Freedom Ring is kind of going to be my focus piece. Maybe Midsummer Roses, just because I feel like that one is closer to being finished than my other pieces. I've kind of got a dilemma that I'm really having a hard time with right now, and that's that these pieces have been sitting for a long time, and I like them, but I don't love them. They're not calling to me really, and so I mean, I don't hate them. I like them, but I don't have anything that I'm working on that I love, that I just am itching to stitch. And that has caused me a problem. I need to find something that I'm really itching to stitch. And actually, you know, at Christmas time, I worked on it on 2 pieces during Christmas time, and I said I'm gonna probably put those away till next fall, but they're kind of itching to be stitched on. Those are the ones that I think it has to do with how long they've been sitting in my queue. The longer something sits in my queue, the greater the possibility that I'm going to get a little bit tired of it. So I may pull out my Christmas pieces. I didn't do that this month because I didn't want to work on Christmas yet, but I may do that. I've also found that new starts are like potato chips. I can't have just one, so I have an itch to start something else, and I actually have plans to start something else. I'm not going to tell you what it is because I am waiting for supplies to arrive before I can start it. But I will give you a hint, and that hint is it's all Caroline's fault. She's working on something that I've really got the itch to stitch also, and it's kind of because of her, and that makes me want to work on it. So, but I'm waiting for Floss to arrive. So we'll talk about that when I start it. So maybe that'll be my next start. At any rate, that's kind of. I'm not going to give you anything more definite than that. I guess if you want to see what I do work on during the next month, you can always follow me on Instagram. My name on Instagram is blitstitch, @blitstitch. As always, if you aren't following me there, feel free to follow me. I enjoy everybody who follows me on Instagram. And I also, once again, I want to thank you for spending time with me. I really appreciate all the time that you spend with me. And I want to thank you for all of your likes, for your comments, and for subscribing to my channel. I hope that you have a great month. Today is the day before Easter. I hope that if you celebrate Easter, I hope that you have or have had a great Easter. We are spending it with our family. It will be, we are spending family time, and I'm going to have a lot of time to stitch, so I should have quite a bit of progress in the next couple of days. I don't know if I'm going to be able to edit this video quickly enough to get it up before Easter. This will probably go up just after Easter, but I hope that you've had a great Easter if you celebrate. Have a great month, and we will talk to you later. We'll finish with my slideshow as always, and hope that you enjoy seeing my progress as I have worked on these projects. Thank you for watching me, and we will talk to you later. Goodbye.